At some point after 60, something shifts. You start getting sleepy earlier than you used to. You wake earlier than you want to. You feel sharpest in the morning and find that by evening, your mind has already clocked off even if the day has not. Most people assume this is aging, a natural slowing down, a body winding toward rest, and in one sense they are right. But what is actually happening is far more specific and far more important than just getting older. Inside your brain right now, there is a cluster of roughly 20,000 neurons whose entire job is to keep time. They have been doing this since before you were born, coordinating when you wake and when you sleep, when your cortisol rises and when it falls, when your immune system is most active, when your muscles are primed to repair themselves, when your heart is most vulnerable, when your brain is most capable of clear thought. After 60, this clock does not break, it shifts. And that shift, quiet, gradual, invisible, touches almost every system in your body. Today, I want to explain exactly what that shift is, why it happens, what it is costing you right now, and 3 evidence-backed daily changes that anchor your clock back toward where it should be. Let me start with what your body clock actually controls, because most people dramatically underestimate it. Your circadian rhythm is not just a sleep-wake schedule. It is the master timing system of your entire biology. At the center of it sits the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the FCN, a tiny region at the base of your brain. It receives direct input from the light-sensitive cells in your eyes and uses that information to synchronize every organ in your body to a 24-hour rhythm. When the clock is running well, strong, and well-timed, here is what it coordinates. Cortisol rises sharply within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, mobilizing energy, sharpening focus, and preparing your metabolism for the day. Insulin sensitivity, your cell's ability to use glucose efficiently, is highest in the morning and declines through the afternoon. The same meal eaten at 7 in the morning produces a measurably lower blood glucose response than the same meal at 7 in the evening. Your immune system performs its most active adaptive work during specific windows. Vaccines given in the morning produce stronger antibody responses than those given in the afternoon, a finding documented in multiple peer-reviewed clinical trials. Your heart rate, blood pressure, and cardiovascular risk all follow circadian patterns. The highest risk window for cardiac events is in the morning hours, precisely because the cardiovascular system is gearing up for the day. And melatonin rises as light fades each evening, signaling to every organ that the day is ending and repair should begin. These processes do not just happen. They happen in a specific sequence at specific times, each one creating the conditions for the next. Your body is a finely synchronized orchestra. The SCN is the conductor, and after 60, the conductor begins to arrive early. When the conductor arrives early, every musician follows. Your energy peaks before 9. Your immune window narrows. Your insulin sensitivity shifts earlier than your meals. And by 2 in the afternoon, the performance is already winding down whether you wanted it to or not. Here is what the science tells us is actually happening. A 2024 study published in the journal Geriatrics, measuring circadian rhythms in 35 healthy older women aged 60 to 79 and 30 younger women aged 20 to 34, found that the older adults had an 18 to 19% smaller circadian amplitude, a weaker rhythm signal, and a peak time that was 66 to 73 minutes earlier than their younger counterparts. And a review published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation found that cortisol rhythms in older adults exhibit a phase advance. The morning, cortisol peak arrives earlier in the day than in younger adults, and that the amplitude of the cortisol rhythm is reduced due to higher cortisol levels persisting through the night. That last detail matters more than it sounds. Cortisol is not just an alerting hormone. It is the SCN's primary messenger to every peripheral organ in your body. It tells your liver, your gut, your pancreas, your immune cells what time it is and what they should be doing right now. When that signal arrives earlier and at a flatter amplitude, less sharp in the morning, higher at night than it should be, the message your organs receive is blurred. The orchestra is not playing from the same score anymore, and a 2024 review in Biosystems found something that compounds this further. Aging reduces the body clock's ability to respond to light. Light is the most powerful signal your body clock uses to stay calibrated. It is how the clock knows what time it is in the external world. After 60, your clock becomes less responsive to that signal. It needs stronger, more deliberate light exposure to achieve the same anchoring effect. And because most older adults spend less time outdoors, and modern indoor lighting is far dimmer than daylight, the clock drifts, not dramatically, not all at once, but by the mid-60s, the internal clock is running 1 to 2 hours earlier than it was in your 40s. This is called a phase advance. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Graham, 67 years old, retired civil engineer. He described himself as someone who used to be a night owl. In his 50s, he regularly worked until 10 in the evening, watched the news, read for an hour, and went to bed around midnight. He woke at 7 feeling genuinely ready. By 65, his whole schedule had collapsed forward. He was struggling to stay awake past 8 in the evening. His wife, 10 years younger, was still fully alert and active. He felt embarrassed and slightly ashamed, though he could not say exactly why. He was waking at 4 in the morning, fully alert, unable to return to sleep. By 9, he was at his best. By 2 in the afternoon, he was fading fast. He had seen his GP, who checked his thyroid, his heart, his bloods, everything within range. He was told it was normal aging. When he came to me, I asked him one question. When do you get outdoors in the morning? He thought about it. Almost never before 10, he said. I read indoors with a coffee first. There it was. His body clock had already phase advanced with age, running earlier than it used to. And without sufficient morning light to anchor it, it had no clear signal telling it when the day had actually begun. Every morning, his clock was waking him at 4 and sending the day's hormonal sequence into motion, cortisol rising, alertness building, while the rest of his life was still asleep. By 9, he was sharp because his biology had been running for 5 hours. By 2, he was spent for the same reason. His clock was not broken. It was untethered. We made 3 changes. Change number 1. Morning outdoor light, earlier and stronger than you think you need. After 60, the body clock needs more light to achieve the same anchoring effect. That is not a metaphor. It is a measured biological fact. The 2024 Biosystems Review found that elderly people need stronger light to achieve entrainment with the environmental light cycle, and take longer than younger adults to recover from disrupted light exposure, such as travel, illness, or prolonged time indoors. The fix requires deliberate action, not passive exposure. Within 30 minutes of waking, go outside, not to the window, outside. On a bright day, outdoor light reaches 20,000 to 100,000 lux. A well-lit indoor room provides 300 to 500 lux. The retinal cells that send timing signals to the SCN respond to a completely different order of magnitude than indoor lighting can provide. 10 to 15 minutes of direct outdoor exposure in the first 30 minutes of the day, even on a cloudy day, which still delivers 10 times more light than indoors, sends the FCN a clear, specific signal. The day has started. Now, for Graham, this was sitting on his porch with his morning coffee instead of at his kitchen table. Same coffee, same newspaper, different light. Change number 2, afternoon physical activity, and why the timing matters more than the exercise. Light is the strongest daily time cue your body clock receives. Physical movement is the second strongest. A phase response curve study involving 51 older adults mapped exactly what exercise does to circadian timing at different times of day. Here is the critical finding. For someone like Graham, whose clock was already running too early, the goal was not to advance the clock further. It was to strengthen the amplitude of the rhythm, to reinforce the contrast between an active day and a quiet night. What afternoon exercise does is send a clear signal to the SCM. This is still an active, alert daytime period. It sharpens the distinction between day and night that a weakened, phase-advanced clock is struggling to maintain. 30 to 40 minutes of moderate walking or resistance exercise between 1 and 4 in the afternoon, 3 times a week at minimum, gives the SCN a second daily anchor point. Not the day started at this time. But the day is still happening. Hold your position. Graham began walking at 2 in the afternoon. His wife joined him. It became the anchor of his day. Change number 3. A strict, unambiguous boundary between day and night. Your body clock uses 2 primary signals to distinguish day from night, light and food. Your digestive system, liver, and pancreas all maintain their own peripheral clocks. They are calibrated to expect food during daylight hours. When food arrives late in the evening, those peripheral clocks receive a signal that conflicts with the SCN. The SCN is saying, it is night, prepare for rest. The digestive systems is saying, food is arriving, prepare for activity. A review published in the journal Sleep in 2024 found that when peripheral clocks receive conflicting timing signals, food arriving during biological night, the cortisol diurnal slope flattens. The signal your FCN sends to coordinate every organ in your body becomes weaker and less precise. And here is the detail that makes this especially important for a phase-advanced clock. Insulin sensitivity peaks in the morning and falls through the afternoon. For someone whose clock is already running 1 to 2 hours early, that metabolic peak arrives even sooner, meaning the same evening meal that a younger person processes reasonably well is arriving after your metabolic window has already narrowed. Earlier eating is not just a lifestyle preference for people over 60. For a phase-advanced clock, it is a biological alignment. The practical changes: eat your largest meal before 2 in the afternoon when possible. Finish eating by 7 in the evening. In the final 2 hours before bed, dim the lights, avoid screens, and give your body an unambiguous signal that the day is over. For Graham, earlier dinner, dimmed lights from 8. The phone went to the charger in the kitchen at 9. 8 weeks after those 3 changes, Graham told me something I have heard in similar forms from many patients. He said, the evenings came back, not dramatically. He was not staying up until midnight. He was not the night owl of his 50s, but he was present at dinner. He was alert through a film. He was not excusing himself at 8 with an apology to his wife, and he was waking at 6 instead of 4, a shift of 2 hours, which gave him an afternoon that lasted until 5 before he faded instead of 2. His clock had not been turned back to 40, but it had been brought back to a range that allowed him to live fully in it. Let me bring this together. After 60, the body clock phase advances. This is biological. It is real. You will not reverse it completely. But you can slow the drift. You can anchor the clock with stronger, more deliberate time cues. Morning outdoor light within 30 minutes of waking every day. Afternoon physical activity between 1 and 4, 3 times a week at minimum. Clear day-night boundaries. Earlier eating, dimmer evening light, screen-free final hour. None of these require a prescription. None of them require a supplement. They require consistency because the body clock is a system that runs on pattern. Give it clearer patterns, and it runs more accurately. Graham got his evenings back. Your clock is not running backward. It is running early, and now you know exactly how to set it. One final thing before we close. I said that your body clock becomes less responsive to light after 60, that it needs stronger light to achieve the same anchoring effect. There is a specific reason why some people over 60 lose even more of their light sensing capacity than others, and it has nothing to do with how much time they spend outdoors. The lens of the eye yellows with age. It progressively filters out the short wavelength light, the blue spectrum light, that the retinal cells send directly to the SCN. In people with cataracts, this filtering becomes extreme, and research has found that cataract surgery, which replaces the yellowed lens with a clear one, improves sleep quality and circadian rhythm strength as a direct consequence of restoring full-spectrum light access to the SCN. In my next video, I am going to look at the eye-brain connection more broadly. How what enters your eyes shapes your biology, not just your clock, but your hormone levels, your mood, and the long-term health of your brain. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. I will see you there.